is irrelevant to what I'm trying to convey. It's not important from my perspective. It mostly serves to support my argument for this type of thinking as your baseline for existence. So therefore, I agree with Chomsky's position. However, I do have to note, I am only peripherally familiar with the study of linguistics. Yet it doesn't matter to me because I have come to understand this thought process as the appropriate way of understanding anything. And so therefore, I intuitively believe this to be true. I hypothesize that time would provide the support for this. Let's break down that last excerpt. Like the ordinary movements of objects observable in nature, which I have provided a few different examples of. Actual speech performance is likely to be the product of a mass of interacting factors. This is another perspective on this element of all of this that I've been trying to convey, which has to do with the series, the system of these interacting factors. The sum of those interactions, the differences, the climate change effects causing differences in air pressure around the globe, manifesting in a chain that is resulting in 2 consecutive days of record-breaking heat in October, culminating in differences in air pressure for the region, causing wind, influencing the trees outside of my window. That chain, that progression, is the mass of the interacting factors resulting in the product of wind blowing the leaves. You can do that any system. Encourage others to practice this in your understanding of government, current events, relationships, you as a person interacting with your job, your community, your state, your country, the globe. You can do it at scale. Adjacent to this, I had made mention of the principle of polarity before, which lends itself to some alchemical hermeticism the reason why those ideas, those concepts resonate with me is as above, so below. The notion that you can abstract macro products of the sum of the mass of interacting factors. Microscopic particles operate with their version of interacting factors. They have behaviors and predictable, observable interactions. Once you notice the principle unifying that product, you can abstract that relationship in dynamics at different scales. The Bhagavad Gita provides this through tamas, rajas, and one other thing. Different forms of energy, chaos, high, low, middle. Rajas, right? That energy can be abstracted. It's the particle relationship, right? We can observe that in gaseous metals acting as rajas, erratic, right? Solid are very still, and liquid are somewhere in between. The principle is similar there. There's a grouping. You can then also assign that principle to thinking. If you assign energy properties to thinking properties, when you are acting erratic, when you feel as though the way that you can interpret observing gaseous particles in a space, you can abstract the relationship in order to correct the mentality and insert slower moving particles or emotions, thoughts, calming you, bringing you down. Thus, you have now used particles or the Bhagavad Gita or the idea of as above, so below to gain an understanding of mental faculties that you can then apply practically in your daily life to improve your life and to regain control over your emotions. You can then use choice, and through the process of observing the relationships and their consequences, effectively make choices to counteract external influences. And so you maintain a constant state of control, awareness, consciousness of yourself and the environment and your relationship to it. And however you want to optimize, you can do it. the level of empowerment that gives you is hard to describe. It's divine. When Christianity talks about God being within us, the idea of oneness, our divine human capability, the idea of, in mythology, of human gods, humanoid gods, that is within us, and it's a result of this. I also wanted to note on this particular case, in terms of language, a learning that I can now share, which described something I intuited, which is this. Social conventions governing the speech exchange. Understanding, observing social conventions and what the consequences of those are, the nuances of conversation, and what they mean, what they communicate everywhere outside of the explicit communication, body language, choice of words, etc. When you observe that, you're able to process an exponential amount of relevant, truthful data that other people are missing out on to give you an advantage or further perspective. I don't like that I used advantage there. It's not really, this shouldn't be seen as a way to get ahead. So forgive me for that. So governing the speech exchange, the urgency of the message and the time available. I wanted to point out varying examples of this piece. The urgency of the message and the time available provides you with tremendous amount of context and additional relevant data points. Climate change is an imminent concern. The urgency of that message cannot be understated, and the time available is shrinking more and more every day. In a rational society, this would be well understood as it has been presented, and action would have been made immediately as soon as the evidence became clear. Hyperbole and exaggerated language prevents us from understanding its interaction in that system is to erode at the truthful nature of urgency and timing. Collectively, as we collectively speak in exaggerated language, the truth of urgency and time available becomes less clear.